At 352-861-7484. Hey, you've earned it. Call today.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. When was the first time you heard the word gluten and you heard talk about foods being labeled as gluten-free, etc.? We had an acquaintance here at WOCA who had celiac disease, and in fact, that was the first time I ever heard the word celiac disease, and he eventually died from it. And I don't know how far back we as a society, I mean, I don't mean you and I personally, because this is something we would never know. But when did we figure out that somebody with celiac disease can die from gluten? I don't know if we've always known this. Maybe that's part of the problem. And the gentleman I'm referring to was, at least 10 years ago, right? He died. Lee Levitt is on the phone, and we've asked him to be with us to explain some of the things we might not know about celiac disease. Lee is a spokesperson for the New England Celiac Organization, and he's going to talk about a study documenting the challenges faced by college and university students living with celiac disease and gluten sensitivity, and I guess that would expand to all of us, the rest of us who might be dealing with that. Lee, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm all right. Where are you calling from?
Calling from lovely Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
All right. How's the weather today? Nice?
Weather is just gorgeous.
It's beautiful up there. So let me ask you this. Was I in the dark, or is celiac disease a new word to our vocabulary like within the last 10 years?
So it is, celiac disease is something that used to be not very well known, and because of popular media, it's become a lot better known. Of course, celiac and gluten-free are two different things. A lot of people follow gluten-free diets. Athletes follow gluten-free diets because they believe it provides better performance. And then there are people that actually have celiac disease who must follow a gluten-free diet because their gut can't actually assimilate the gluten, and it causes damage.
Yeah. So
you know.
And I guess just to add one more question to that, is that something that is also relatively understood? Did we know 10 years ago that gluten could kill you if you had celiac disease?
Yes, we knew that 10 years ago.
Okay.
The challenge is, frankly, that 10 years ago, many doctors didn't know how to prescribe celiac disease. My wife has had celiac all of her life. In fact, celiac isn't something that you pick up or catch. It's something you're born with, and it may present itself in a variety of symptoms. And as someone who is growing up, you may not know that those symptoms are actually symptoms of a disease. My wife, for instance, thought that feeling bloated after a meal was common for everyone.
And is that something that the mom-to-be is at fault for, that she doesn't take prenatal care of herself? Is that why?
No, I'm not a scientific expert. I believe it's genetic rather than something that can be developed. So if we actually do genetic testing to see, or blood testing to see, because my wife and daughter have celiac disease, my son's been tested. Others in our family have some symptoms and have been tested. So it's not something that's developed. It's something you're born with.
Okay, so if you feel bloated, does the sensitivity to, or what's the other word you use, intolerance to gluten, does that increase as you get older?
It can. And interestingly, some people who have celiac disease are overweight and can't lose weight. Others are underweight and can't put on the pounds, can't get the nutrition that's in the food. So there are a variety of different ways that celiac disease presents itself, and that's part of the challenge. My wife was first told she had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, by a very well-regarded doctor in Boston who just wasn't capable of doing the proper diagnosis.
Wow, that's pretty scary. I mean, you have some of the best doctors up there too. So, I mean, so this is something even the doctors are still on the cutting edge and needing to learn about, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. There's still a lot of education that has to go on, and that, frankly, is why the New England Celiac Organization was founded, to create greater awareness of celiac disease and gluten sensitivities, so that people that have it can better advocate for themselves and find proper diets and find better ways of dealing with the issue.
When a person is diagnosed with this and they're brought up in the household, it's up to the parents to provide the best foods and the safest foods possible. But how do you help provide safe foods when the child is growing up and goes to school and eats cafeteria lunches?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big question. Our daughter went off to college about 6 years ago, and she went off with a fresh diagnosis of celiac disease. She didn't know until not long before she went to college that she had celiac disease. And so when she arrived on campus, she had to learn how to advocate for herself. There weren't formal processes in place. No one really knew how to help her, take care of her. But again, 6 years ago, in a food service organization, celiac disease and the issues of gluten contamination, cross-contamination, weren't well understood.
Wow, how serious is cross-contamination? That kind of leads right in. My next question was going to be about like recipes. If there's a recipe, like let's say you go to, I don't know, a Chinese restaurant, you never know what's in some of the food. I mean,
buffet.
Yeah, I mean, they mix bread and they mix eggs and they mix everything together.
Sure. So celiacs become very good detectives. And unfortunately, the process usually looks like this. I went to a restaurant, I got sick, I went back to the restaurant, and I said, so do you use malt vinegar or rice vinegar for your sushi rice?
Oh,
and one of the two has gluten in it?
Malt has gluten. Rice vinegar does not. My wife and I dined at a local sushi place for years, and every time we went, we would say, how are you preparing the food? And for years, she would come back not feeling well. And finally, we learned that some sushi rice is made with one versus the other. And we went back and they said, "Oh, we use malt vinegar." They didn't realize, the restaurant didn't realize that they thought they were doing the right thing, but gluten hides in a variety of places.
So if somebody's listening right now and they've never been diagnosed, but they're saying, you know what, I get bloated a lot when I eat, are they perhaps a candidate for more research? I mean, should they go to the doctor and have a test done?
So again, I'm not a doctor. If someone has, the guidance is, if something doesn't feel right, say something. That's sort of a good general rule. If after every meal I don't feel well, or I don't have energy, or I can't put weight on, or I can't take weight off, go see a nutritionist. Go talk to your doctor and explain the symptoms. And a well-educated doctor may say, well, let's test for celiac. Let's try an elimination diet. Let's take everything that has gluten out of your diet and see if those symptoms go away. And
have you done that? Has your wife done that, or your children?
My wife and daughter both went through that, and through the blood tests they confirmed that they had celiac disease. So the elimination diet was a second piece of it. But
how do you know what has gluten and what doesn't?
Again, you have to play detective. So, there are things so gluten is typically added to food. There's no food that has gluten naturally occurring in it except wheat and some other grains.
Oh, like fruits and vegetables, they're okay.
So fruits and vegetables are okay. However, cross-contamination can be an issue. So if French fries are made in a fryolator that has had gluten in it from something else, those will be cross-contaminated. So even though there's nothing in the French fry itself, they've picked up the cross-contamination from a prior food. And so again, someone with celiac has to play detective. Do you have a separate fryolator? Do you wash your griddle carefully? Does your chef change his gloves? If you go to a food service, you'll see if someone says, I have celiac disease, a proper food service person, an educated food service person will say, hold on a minute, I'm going to change my gloves for a fresh pair of gloves.
Wow. And that we've heard other allergies like peanut allergies that can also be deadly to somebody. And that same thing happens with peanut crossovers or whatever you call it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The cross-contamination issue is an important one, and it's not well understood, in part because the challenge here is, the Food Service Administration at a college may have been through extensive training. They may have a good process in place, and then you may have an hourly worker actually serving the food, and that person may have started last week, and they may not have been through the training yet.
Right,
so they don't know that making something gluten-free doesn't mean, well, I'm going to take the hamburger out of the bun and throw the bun away.
Oh.
I've seen that happen.
Because it can.
I've seen that happen.
So the bun can contaminate the hamburger.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Gosh.
Who
Yep.
knew? Wow, I wouldn't have ever thought that.
Yeah.
Lee, can you hang on? We've got to take a little break, and we'll be right back with you. Lee Levitt is our guest. He's a spokesperson for the New England Celiac Organization. And, gosh, if he's saying anything that you can relate to me, it would make sense to have it go checked out. And I made the statement earlier that it can be fatal or toxic. I mean, toxic to the point of being fatal. I don't know that I was accurate or not. Let's find out if I was right or not on the other side. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Monday, intervals of clouds and sun, breezy in the afternoon with a shower and thunderstorm around, high 87 to 91. There'll be a shower or thunderstorm around Monday evening, and partly cloudy later Monday night, low 73 to 77. Tuesday, more clouds and sun with a shower and heavy thunderstorm or two, especially during the afternoon hours. Watch for flooding downpours, a high 86 to 90. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
There are only a few things in life that you can be certain will always be around: death, taxes, the pursuit of happiness, and computers. As they continue to advance at an epic pace, the one absolute certainty about them is that they'll break. It's not an if, it's a when. And when it happens, bring it to the only company in Ocala that's certified in Apple and Microsoft, Ocala Mac and PC Repair. They even offer on-site computer repair service, so they come to you. And if you do drop it off, you can check your repair status online. Ocala Mac and PC Repair is a family-owned and operated company that can do everything from mobile repair to wireless networks, fixing viruses, data recovery, even building and installing new systems. Visit online at ocalamacpc.com. In person, 1713 East Silver Springs Boulevard, or give them a call, 352-566-8324. That's 352-566-8324. Ocala Mac and PC Repair.
It's rodeo time in Ocala. The 34th annual Ocala Shrine Pro Rodeo returns to the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion September 2nd and 3rd. 7:30 nightly, cowboys ride to help children walk with all the major events of pro rodeo. Get your tickets now for broncs, bulls, and babes, cowboys, cowgirls, and you. September 2nd and 3rd, the Ocala Shrine Pro Rodeo. Don't miss it.
That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service today and avoid all those headaches before they happen. Pride Tree Service, 572-2510. That's 572-2510.
Looking to put your money to work? Florida Credit Union has a CD special, 25 months for 1.41% APY with a $10,000 minimum, federally insured by the NCUA, a government agency. These rates effective through August 31st, subject to change at any time. Visit one of Florida Credit Union's convenient locations today or their website at flcu.org or 352-237-8222. Don't miss this 25 months CD special. Again, the APY is 1.41%. Act now. All right, 19 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. We're talking about celiac disease and gluten intolerance and all of that. And our expert to talk about it is Lee Levitt. He's a spokesperson for the New England Celiac Organization. They actually did a study, and it looks like it focused on college students because they're in an environment, a social environment at school, and it's not always easy. And I was just listening to the ad for the rodeo, and of course we live near theme parks, and you've seen people all the time with different foods that they're walking around the parks or at the rodeo. They might get something.
Yeah.
Who knows? In those circumstances, do you know for sure what you're getting? How do you know? And is it kind of a party pooper thing when you can't have the food everybody else is having.
Yeah.
But of course, you don't want to be unhealthy.
No.
In order for me to look smart, I have to have notes, because otherwise I wouldn't know. And my notes say, I just want to read this real quick. Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease that permanently renders the person intolerant to food containing wheat, rye, and barley. Symptoms of the disease include gastrointestinal discomfort, fatigue, and pain throughout the body. Many survey participants said they have missed class or were unable to focus because they consumed gluten and became ill. I'm guessing, Lee, if we could talk about that just for a second. It's got to be different extremes based on each person, right?
Absolutely. So some people have silent celiac, where they can eat something with gluten and it may be hurting them inside, but they have no symptoms. With others, my wife has an immediate reaction that she feels bloated. My daughter has a near immediate reaction. She develops a sinus headache. And so everyone reacts differently.
A sinus headache? Wow.
Oh my.
You wouldn't have even thought that the two were connected.
Right.
You
Well, it's
digest
the body's reaction to something that it can't process properly.
Wow.
Is the government getting involved with this? Like, they were insisting that restaurants and fast food places have the number of calories on their menu. Do they also have to have whether it's gluten-free or not on the menu?
No, we've seen restaurants going to a voluntary model where they'll tag certain entries as gluten-free or gluten-free modified. And some restaurants we're aware of offer gluten-free options and then specifically state, while this item may not have gluten in it, it has not been prepared in a gluten-free environment.
Does beer have gluten in it?
Sure does.
So they can't drink beer.
Right.
Let's see. And gosh, how many other drinks have gluten in them?
Oh, exactly.
I mean, so you have to educate yourself about these things. So before the break, I hinted that I might have been wrong about it being toxic to the point of being fatal. Am I right or wrong about that? What is the story?
No, you're spot on. It is toxic. Celiacs can develop stomach cancers and other diseases. Subsequently, it can shorten lifespans. And again, the biggest challenge is for those that have silent celiac, that they don't know that they have celiac disease, or that even if they know they have celiac, if they don't have outward symptoms after eating gluten, they may say, well, it's not that bad, I'm okay.
Oh, wow.
And so I can have something with gluten every now and then.
Well, what you said earlier before the break about it, something contaminating something else. Robert and I know a lady who does not eat the crust on pizza. She just eats the cheese and leaves the entire crust, not just the end piece, but I mean the whole triangle.
Yeah, she just makes it naked, just
right. And it's because she was she didn't want to eat the gluten. But if it, so I guess in her case, I mean, maybe it doesn't contaminate it to the point where she notices it, huh?
That's right. Well, if she's just trying to avoid carbohydrates, that's the approach.
Okay.
But we wouldn't call that pizza in the Northeast.
That's right. Can you trust the products that when you go to the grocery store? Can you trust when they say gluten-free? Are you 100% safe?
So, generally, yes. There are a number of well-known companies that deliver gluten-free food, and then there are others. So if you go to a market that you look at the ingredients and there's nothing that has gluten in it, the label may say made in a plant that also processes soy or peanuts or wheat, and so for the most part, people don't have reactions to that kind of food, but for a strict celiac, they might only eat something that is gluten-free. And again, we're trusting the manufacturers to mean gluten-free when they say gluten-free.
Do you know, I seem to remember when this whole issue came up a few years ago that we had some deniers calling in to say, oh, that's a bunch of nonsense, but nobody's calling up right now. So I guess the word has gotten out that this is not just some like new age disease, that this is for real, and then there's really a way to live your life and not have to put up with the discomfort and the pain that you will get if you have celiac disease.
Yes, there is, and that in fact is the reason why we focused on the college student population, because when someone goes off to school for the first time, they may have been recently diagnosed. They may be the only one in the family that's had celiac. They don't know how to advocate for themselves. They don't know that they have to. They may not know about cross-contamination. And what happens is they become isolated in school. They get sick, or they have to wait 30 minutes for a meal while their friends go off and eat and then leave.
Yeah.
So celiacs are at great risk in school. We find that the first-time celiacs, or those alone in the family, they have much greater social isolation. They have much greater risk of academic issues. And so, we're calling on schools to look at that population as a very high-risk population, to treat them more proactively and say, okay, if we've got people coming onto campus in the fall, we want to make sure that they feel comfortable asking for gluten-free food, actually telling us if they've gotten gluten. We're developing a college survival guide, and one of the things we recommend to college students is to keep a journal. If you've been glutened, write down what you ate, where you ate it, when you ate it, so you can go back to the food service and say, we know you're meaning well, and by and large things are good, but this happened on Tuesday at noon.
And what is the difference between celiac gluten sensitivity and non-celiac gluten sensitivity?
Right. So there are people that don't have celiac disease who do have a reaction to eating gluten. They, again, it can be the bowel disruption, the gas and bloating and so on. So celiac disease is one of a group of gluten sensitivities, but it very specifically is an autoimmune disease where things aren't going to change.
Oh my gosh! And since you don't have it, do you feel guilty for not having it? That your wife and daughter has it?
Well, I don't feel guilty, but I do keep my beer in the fridge in the garage.
Yeah. Okay.
And your pizza.
Yes, temptation.
Hey, you have dibs on the beer and pizza. Nobody's going to touch your stuff.
That's right. Well, we've moved to an all gluten-free household over the past couple of years, and it actually turns out that if you avoid gluten, your carbohydrate intake will be lower, and that's actually a healthy way to live as well.
That's not a bad way of looking at it. Yeah.
Do people notice that? Like if you invite them over for a dinner party and you make everything gluten-free, do they notice?
We don't tell them, and they don't notice.
Oh,
we don't tell them, they don't notice.
Nice. Really? Somebody told me that they have gluten-free biscuits or something, and they fall apart. Is that true? If it's gluten-free, it'll fall apart?
No, there is gluten. There are good gluten-free biscuits and breads and rolls, and there is. I've done a lot of taste testing on this. I have to tell you, I haven't yet found a good gluten-free beer.
Oh, okay. There you go. Okay. Let me know when you do.
I'm continuing the research.
Good for you.
I knew there'd be a fun angle on here somewhere. Lee, thank you for being on the air with us. Before we say goodbye, can you give our listeners a website or another way to find out more information, a book or something?
Absolutely. So there are a lot of resources at a website, newenglandceliac.org, neceliac.org. All sorts of resources available on the website.
Okay, and if you don't know how to spell celiac, it's C-E-L-I-A-C.
You truly are a blessing, you and your organization, for people, because like Larry pointed out earlier, people thought, oh no, that's just silly, but it's not.
Yeah, we did have our share of that. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Lee Levitt, thank you so much for being on the air with us. And for the listeners, we did record this interview, so we'll put it up on Facebook and YouTube, and you can share it with somebody who might benefit from this information. Hopefully we'll reach somebody that'll benefit from it. Lee, thank you again. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Monday, intervals of clouds and sun, breezy in the afternoon with a shower and thunderstorm around, high 87 to 91. There'll be a shower or thunderstorm around Monday evening, and partly cloudy later Monday night, low 73 to 77. Tuesday, more clouds and sun with a shower and heavy thunderstorm or two, especially during the afternoon hours. Watch for flooding downpours, a high 86 to 90. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Are you a list maker? Got your day planner laid out to structure your day? Well, here's something to add to your list. Make time for something really important. Visit Highland Memorial Park, because how you prepare for that moment is so important. Why Highland? Sure, it's a beautiful place, but aside from the beauty and the quiet reflection, practical people will appreciate the many options. Take a tour and make some serious plans. The Highland staff will confidentially show you all options and payment plans.